Okay, we are in volume 9 of the Bible story. We're actually at the last story in this book. It's part 4, story 9, Angels with a Promise. Um, so let me get reading. While Jesus was in Galilee, he must have told his 11 special friends to go to Jerusalem and wait for him there. See 11? See, it says 11 now. Um, but they did put somebody in there. Okay, let's get back to the story. For the next time we hear of them, they were in a room in the city, probably the same upper room where they ate the Last Supper together, and Jesus is eating together with them again. Things are very different now. The cross is past, so is the resurrection. Jesus had died and risen again. He is alive forevermore. All the power of heaven and earth is his, and no one can take it away from him. But while Jesus is strong, his disciples are weak, far too weak for the great burdens they will have to carry when they have returned when he had returned to heaven. So he urged them to wait in Jerusalem until they receive the promise of the Father. What is the promise of the Father? It is something the Father wants to give them because they have no faithful followed his Son. It is something that will change them suddenly from ordinary men, fishermen, tax gatherers, and the like, into mighty men of God, brave, tireless, powerful preachers of the gospel. John baptized with water, Jesus tells them, but before many days you shall be baptized with the Holy Spirit. Oh, and I do love that video of it. Of somebody's interpretation. I do love the look of it. But let me get back to the story. I still thinking about the kingdom. They asked, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? It is not for you to know times or seasons which the Father has fixed by his own authority, he said. But you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. Will the coming of the Holy Spirit mean the setting up the kingdom they have hoped for so long? No. The Holy Spirit will bring them the strength, wisdom, and courage to preach the gospel of the kingdom to people who have never heard of it. You will be my witness in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. There will be a new idea indeed. How could a little group of poor, humble, uneducated fisher, fish folk, fisher folk witness in the very city where the priests and rulers had put Jesus to death? And how could they, without money or possession of any kind, carrying the gospel to the uttermost part of the earth? How could the Holy Spirit, the promise of the Father, make such things possible? Still wondering what Jesus could mean by these strange words, they walked with him once more to the Mount of Olives. This time they do not stop at the Garden of Gethsemane, but climb to the top. Their pace is slow, for something tells them that he is going to leave them soon, and they want to keep him as long as they can. Now Jesus is looking at them all with a special tenderness in his eyes. The hour of parting is at hand. He loves he loves these dear men, every one of them. He had he has loved he has lived with them for more than 3 years. He knows how much they have given up for him and how much they soon will have to suffer as they witness in his name. Yeah, I wonder if Peter dragged his family, Simon Peter, did he drag his family with him to Rome? Could have, since he was married. Probably had to. Uh, well, Moses didn't. He left his family with his father-in-law and everything. If you think about it. But okay, let me digress. Okay, dear Peter, dear James, dear John, and Thomas too, bless him, blesses him, and despite his doubts, and Matthew, Philip, and all the rest, such good men and true, with all their faults. Bless you, every one. I can hear him saying, and being, and there are tears in his voice. And then it has an illustration right here. It looks like it's a Remy, but it's so offset and it's so blurry. This has got to be a print book. These got to be proofs. That's the illustration that's at the bottom. And of course, tears, and there were tears in his voice. Suddenly, they noticed that he is risen into the air. In other words, they saw him, and all of a sudden, he started floating. He is going away. Yes, up, up, up he goes, further and further, until at last a cloud receives him out of their sight. In other words, he just started floating, and he just kept going higher and higher and higher and higher until the cloud he got enveloped into a cloud. Yeah, that's real. That's what they say. Okay, let me get back to the story. Farewell, they cried. Farewell, farewell, dear master. Perhaps they waved their hands, then wiped their eyes. He has disappeared, but still they look, peering into the depths of space, hoping against hope that they may catch one more glimpse of him. But he was gone, gone, and a dreadful thought comes to them that he may have gone for good. A desperate sadness fills their hearts. Then, then of a sudden, they notice two strangers standing near them, both dressed in white. Who can they be? so some people just appeared all in white. "Ye men of Galilee," said the strangers, "why stand here gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up," and then it has the illustration. It's a 2-page by Russell Harlan, 1957, and not many people, you know, would see it. And if you watch some of this dark stuff, that sometimes I like to listen to and watch, and it's creepy sometimes. But you just think he just rose off the ground, and then he kept getting higher and higher and higher, and then these two guys dressed in white just up and showed up, and then they say, "Why are you staring up there?" So this is the painting, and let's get back to the story. Let me see. It says, "This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like matter as ye have seen him go into heaven." Now they know these two men must be angels, sent by their beloved Master to comfort their hearts with the promise that someday he will come back again. Then if you think about it, there wasn't any stories, any stories anywhere that besides the wheel within the wheel and Elijah, uh, of somebody just shooting off up into the sky. And then I'm saying, whenever I think of this, um, you know, Superman stuff, it's just my brain, because I like sci-fi and like this stuff. All right, let me get back to the story. Sorry, I rambled a lot. Okay, how kind, how wonderful of him. On his way to Gloryland, with all the shining host of heaven around him, he remembered his friends left behind on earth. They hurried back to Jerusalem with great joy. All sadness gone, they are continually in. They are continually in the temple, praising and blessing God. So glad that this same Jesus, their own Jesus, will return. How comforting is this blessed hope! And what a beautiful hope it is, even today. The same Jesus is indeed coming again. The same, the very same Jesus that the very same Jesus who healed the sick, raised the dead, loved the children, and told such beautiful stories is coming again. The same dear Jesus of Nazareth, Capernaum, and Cana, who did so many kind deeds for the poor and needy, who was always so gentle and gracious and good, is coming again. It is not, it will not be another Jesus, a different Jesus, but this same Jesus. Time will not have aged or altered him, for he is the same, yesterday, today, and forever. When he comes back down that shining pathway through the skies, it will be the same Jesus who went away unchanged by the changing years. We shall see him by the smile on his face, but the sweet melody by the sweet melody in his voice, and by the marks of the nails in his hands. And then it has a little illustration right here. It looks like the time of the disciples, and then the Christian, and then the medieval, and then looks like the Reformations. But yeah, and all the Reformations. It looks like the Reformation, because this one guy looks like uh, Whitley, and then it's got from the apostles all the way up to these people of the 1955s or the 50s. And this is the illustration. Give me a second. See, it's almost like the kale. The Kales are an illustrated Bible that I like to, this reminds me of sometimes. I may have said Kales, I may have not, but it's a Bible. It's pretty much a Bible that's got little illustrations on it. Okay, and that is the end of book of volume 9. And see, we're so at the end that it's a Herbert Rudin, and this time it looks like he's got the markings in his hand. And there's the same as what it was the beginning of the book or the volume. And that's the inside. And then this is the outside. I try not to get because the plastic, the cover jackets, but uh, is on there. So that is the end of volume 9, and I'll start on the next volume in just a bit, and I'll see you in a bit.